first off, we'll start with some introductions. So I'm Whisper. I'm one of the moderators here, crafter for Assassination and Subtlety, and we'll just go around what we do, why we're known, all that kind of stuff.
Sure. I guess I'll go next. I'm Salathan. I'm Assassination One Trick Pony, and sometimes I still do play M+.
I'm Guy. I spend way too much time talking in Discord. I do theory crafting for Outlaw. I do guides for Outlaw. And I play Subtlety and Progression. So.
I'm Speed. I am DPS for Method. Played the Rogue in recent Race the World First, and occasional Mythbus enjoy.
And I'm JPC, James. I stream sometimes, Rogue for Liquid, and I also do M+.
Nice.
Everybody's really humble, aren't they? Except for Whisper, I guess.
What? Just said I'm a mod here. That's all I do.
Yeah. See, you're the only one who did that.
I'm the fat virgin Discord mod.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, dude.
That's what everybody aspires to be.
All right, so I want to kick it off because obviously this race is kind of insane. And I just want to talk about the kind of prep going into PTR testing, making the most out of like that 1 hour time frame you have on each boss, the struggles you have coming up with a strategy for it, and then obviously with stuff like Halandris, Blizzard reworked the bosses after testing. So how do you guys, in sort of a world first scenario, kind of play around all of those changes and all that prep that you need to do for those bosses?
James, you want to go first?
You go first.
Personally, it was like first time doing something like this in Race the World First, so I was a bit out of place and not sure exactly how I'm gonna handle stuff. But just approaching PTR, I would obviously check out the journal, and then we would have guild meetings where Raider explains everything, and then if people have like suggestions and ideas, we will like talk about how potentially we could deal with the mechanic if it works like this, like a certain mechanic in the past that we have seen on some bosses or something like that. And then once we get to the boss, of course, you try to optimize and be as efficient as possible to go furthest into the fight as possible, so you can see as many mechanics as possible. And that's about it. But playing for my class, I guess I would just assume what could be the best from how many targets could be on the boss, and I would choose a spec or something like that for certain fight, and that would be my prep going in.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same for us and for me. We normally have like 2 meetings for each boss, like before each PTR testing. So like, and normally it's like 2 bosses per day, so it might be like 4 different meetings. And there's like presentations and almost kind of like a little quiz or like an exam or like stuff that you have to know going into the testing. And we just normally we have like 2 game plans for how a mechanic could work, unless it's like super self-explanatory. And then we just be like, okay, after the first pull, like it's clearly this one, and you just go from there. But like about which specs to choose and stuff, what Speed said is pretty much it. You just target count, and like if it looks like there's an ad that needs to die, like all right, Ventier sub is like probably better for testing or stuff like that. So
I guess another question I want to build upon is how do you guys go into fights like the final 3 where there was like no raid testing at all?
Go ahead.
So all the mechanics were, there was still like data mine and stuff, and you had the dungeon journal and whatnot. So we still came up with like a pretty good game plan. I think like basically everybody probably knew how Lord's Dread was going to work. But not for one thing that like Rygolon, I don't know, all the mechanics have like the same name. There's like a dark quasar, the unstable matter, the state, whatever. So unstable core, all this different stuff. So for that one, we just kind of had to see it. But like after we saw it in heroic, like because we got to see it in heroic before we went to mythic. Basically, we have like a full team of analysts that are in the back room, and so they're just like back there cooking up strats the entire time while we're working through the first 8 bosses. And then you get to Lords of Dread, and it's like, all right, boom, like we got all this stuff done. But I mean, if you had to go straight, the only thing I think that was a bit of a surprise for us was the torments in P3 Jailer, and yeah. I don't know. What about for you, Speed? What about for Method?
Yeah, basically the same. Like there's always like people in the background working. Like this is like their role in the guild. Like a bunch of analysts and a bunch of support people. They're like this is their job, and then like they go over mechanics and present to you in best way possible. Only part I was not certain how it worked. I might have missed that during the meeting was if you can actually target the Lords of Dread during their swarm phase or not. So we were like. I was like theory crafting potentially maybe some class could be better than other, right? If you cannot target the boss. And for Jailer, I a bit slacked. Honestly, I missed that part of the meeting, and it was like not a huge deal anyways because you didn't do this boss in Heroic Week because you didn't have time, or like Heroic and Mythic Week, you didn't really have time to do that boss so much because of the tier splits and everything you had to do before that. And it was like kind of self-explanatory, like once you reach the boss and how it worked and all the mechanics. It was pretty easy, yeah.
Oh, there was also one thing I forgot to mention. So there are these mobs in Revendreth that had the same like spell ID or something as the Lords of Dread Swarm phase, and they like work the same way. So when we found that out, we went there and we tested like every single ability of every single spec that was like coded as AoE or like interacted with AoE with those mobs. So like we knew going into it that like Wild Spirits got its damage amped during the burn phase and like stuff like that because you could. The thing is that the mobs there, they only had like 5 or 10k health, so you had to like one shot it and then wait for it to respawn. It was super annoying, but yeah. Anyways, that was kind of cool.
That actually sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Related to the testing, do you like how does it work for? I mean, this year you both played Rogue, right? For testing specific interactions in the case of like Feint and Cloak, like especially doing PTR, do you just have like a checklist of all the abilities you want to test it on, and then just make sure that you do it at least once, so you can later figure out in the logs and everything if it actually works or not? Or is it just kind of on the fly?
One good example of that would be Blasphemy, or rather not necessarily Cloak, but Shadow Step, right? Back when you had similar boss, it was Star Ogre in Nighthold, and you could Shadow Step and clear your debuff with someone else. And that was like my first initial thoughts, hey, I'm going to Shadow Step and clear my debuff. But once we got there, it proved not to work the same way. If you like Shadow Step across the target that has the same debuff as you would explode and in process cause a wipe. Yeah, that was like one thing I remember testing actually twice, because on the first pull I was so confused why it did not work, and then on the second pull I just realized it does not work anymore like that.
Wait, that's so dumb that it works that way. What the fuck?
It's like Unat, right? Like there was already the case on Unat. Basically, if you had a relic of a different kind and you try to shadow step or blink over someone, then it would just trigger for whatever reason.
Oh. Basically, what happens is the circle like around your character like follows you with like a move speed of like extremely high move speed. Like, so technically, like when you teleport there, your like debuff is like chasing you on an invisible character extremely quickly, and so it like runs through other people that are in that path that you. So same thing with like Blink, Night Fae, all that stuff.
Oh, that's cool. I was not aware of Unat. I kind of quit after Jaina kill. So
I don't think most people know anything about Unat, including myself.
Yeah, it's a shame. It was such an amazing boss, though.
Yeah, I also quit for Unat. So, I think the one question that I have is how much time goes into actually testing a boss versus how much time do you actually spend like in logs and stuff analyzing the boss afterwards?
Is that even something you guys do yourself anymore? Or is it just something where you go to an analyst and tell them, hey, can you figure this out? Can you figure that out for me? And then they'll do it for you so you can focus on other stuff?
For us, we kind of did three things for myself personally, right? So it was like a group thing right after we finished the testing. We would like talk about ideas and stuff like that. Hey, we could potentially do it this way. And then there's, of course, a group of analysts doing extra work through the logs and everything. And then third thing would be like someone playing similar class respect with you, and you would like talk to them, hey, this could be interesting idea, or you could play it like that, or you could save cooldowns for this, or we should do that type of thing, right?
Yeah, we basically the exact same approach. So like as a guild, we would do a debrief meeting, which was like generally more strat focused, like what we like, what we didn't like, how we could change certain things, or like if we, let's say we just saw, like for example, right at the end of testing, we had seen like the very end of Zymox. So we would like say, we would talk about that as a guild, and then the analysts a lot of times would look at like more number specific stuff, or if that like wouldn't work from like a more of a precise reason why, like a movement pattern or something. But like the strat stuff we would do as a guild. And then yeah, if we would talk to like we have like class channels, so anything class related as it pertains to a boss like would go there. If like yeah, you could like talk amongst the other people that play your class and stuff like that.
It's interesting that you bring up Zymox, because that was like I'm sure like good amount of guilds have figured that boss on PTR already, because they got super far. I feel like once we got there, we like exactly knew what we are gonna do. Like there was nothing new or surprising on that boss.
Yeah, well, the one thing that changed for us was on testing, you couldn't get yoinked through a ring. It would kill everybody with the tank suck. And so we had to like have like a giga strat, which is like why it was hard for us to get into P3 during like in the testing window. But then on live, we found out that you could get yoinked through, and also on PTR you couldn't put the trap in the middle. It had to go like just on the outside. Whereas like after they fixed the ring collision or something, you could put it right in the middle. So then that changed our strat a little bit, but I mean it wasn't too big of a deal.
Yeah, it was like during like first few pulls that we figured there's like it was not consistent, right, getting gripped to the ring, but it could happen. But I'm pretty sure they did change that for live, as you said. Then on live we tried it again and it worked 100%. So yep.
So kind of going further into like the race specifics. You guys obviously have a bunch of alts that you need to run. How do you guys determine like which alts you need to play, which alts you need to plan for? Which ones just end up being, you know, the rat funnelers, and which ones end up being actual characters that you might have to play? What's sort of the thought process that goes behind that? Is that mostly just analysts saying, hey, we need 3 shamans, so you're on shaman duty? Or do you guys get to pick that, and how many rogues you have and all that kind of stuff?
It mostly goes through the process of talking with GM and officers. Like they recruited me because they really needed the rogue, and I was specifically told to be a rogue this year, right? And coming into the guild, I did not have any mirror characters, and that was kind of a big deal for me. I even told them I don't want to play any mirrors. I had like alt monk, warrior, DH, and paladin, but I didn't want to play any mirrors. Like that kind of really sucks out any fun out of me. But by the end, I realized I really have to get it the way the tiers work. And I had to dump one of my alts. It was Paladin, I believe. My Warrior and DH they were always going to be rats that funnel just gear to other people. I never planned on playing them. Don't really enjoy them as much. Like maybe more DH than a Warrior. I did want to play a Hunter, but it was kind of behind in a gear. Like by the time I joined the guild, I joined it like super fine late into the farm, and it was like not gonna get geared up for splits. I thought that could be potentially ult that I could play because of the AoE, right? If you're not using Rogue, you could potentially use a Hunter for more AoE on some fights, but it didn't up being the such case, and yeah, had to focus solely on the Rogue.
Yeah, for me, I think they told me to make the warrior, like when I made JP Charger, they told me to do that 4 splits specifically, like the analyst did, because we knew the warriors were going to be really good. But the mirror mains, it's funny, like I hate mirror mains, and I already had one that I hated playing, and they were like, yeah, I mean, you really should make a third, like a second mirror main, so like 3 rogues, just from like a probability standpoint, like you'll have a lot better shot of getting the tier, like you really should do it. And I was like, all right, fine. So I made this 3rd rogue, and lo and behold, I only got 2-piece. So, just love that. But that's one of the worst parts, probably, Race War first rating, is if you have to do mirror mains. But they mostly do that. I think there are some players in a lot of the guilds that can play multiple classes at a high enough level to be able to do prog on any class, like whatever. But like for me, I'm not there yet. Like personally, like there's no way I would just like come in on JP charge for like Lords of Dread. Like hell no, dude. I got to get better at the game first. But we have quite a few. Like a lot of the healers can play multiple. Obviously, all the tanks. There's a few DPS that could swap around between like Hunter and Warrior. They play like Lip can and Ben can and stuff like that. But yeah, for going into the tier, I knew it was pretty much going to be Rogue for me. So if Rogue wasn't good on a boss, I was out, which is fine for me. But I do want to get better at that in the future.
It was slightly different for me. I had an option of playing Windwalker because no one else was actually playing Windwalker in the guild. So if we ever needed Windwalker, I would have to play that as well. But in the end, we were like thinking that we might use Windwalker on Andren and maybe Lords, but it was better off not using it. It didn't really serve any better purpose than Survival Hunter did.
I guess like a quick follow-up question for alt-related stuff is, how often do you guys plan, like you're expecting a spec to do like super well, or expecting a spec to do super poorly? Like how often are those predictions like accurate?
Well, I'm pretty sure Liquid and a couple more guilds do the same thing. Additional to the testing of the bosses on PTR, you do damage profile testing, and everybody in the guild is testing all kinds of stuff. 2-piece, single target, 2 target, 4 targets, more targets, and stuff like that. And you go through all of that testing, which actually takes quite a while. Like 2 nights of testing, we spent testing all of those damage profiles, and like we kind of knew upfront what's going to be good in what situation.
Yeah,
it was pretty. I would say 85% accuracy on guessing what's going to be good.
Yeah, I mean,
just really you guys just hitting dummies, or
it's like, I don't know. I mean, yes, but like, I mean, we will do all kinds of stuff. Like there will be like very strict like movement patterns that we think are going to line up with bosses. Like, okay, in like we're stopping damage in 3, 2, 1. Okay, we're moving in 3, 2, 1. Okay, like all kinds of stuff. And then it'll also just be like, all right, 5-minute hit the dummy. But yeah, and we'll do like, and then we log it all, and then they go over, they use the logs, and they look at, okay, what did the, how much damage were you doing in certain time frames and stuff like that. But I mean, just the fact that like all the top guilds had like the comps that they had for Lords of Dread, I feel like is pretty indicative of the fact that we come prepared to the game. We do a lot of research.
And so like all the alts that you guys make, how does that actually like determine what gets played? Like for example, like Speed, you said you were ready to play a Windwalker. Let's say like you come into splits and your Windwalker gets 4-piece like right off the bat. Like first week you do heroic, you get 3 tier pieces, you open your vault, you have 4-piece, and your rogue only has like maybe 2. Does that impact your decision, or do you still come on the rogue?
This year was, I'm not sure how it was in the past, but this year was a bit different, right? Your main could not be decided in Heroic Week or Vault. You would have to do Heroic Lords or Regulon, and whichever character gets either shoulders or chest, either heroic or normal, that's your main basically, because you cannot have 4-piece without those items. And then after that, we would go into the splits and acquire additional tiers to the character that got a tier from the Lords or Regulon. So that's how you determine what you're going to play.
I would see a lot of people asking me that in Twitch chat, or they would be like excited for me. They'd be like, "Oh, you got 2-piece on this guy," or whatever. But the reality is like everybody in the entire guild has 3-piece because we can just go buy them 3-piece. So what it really came down to was if you looted tier off Lords of Dread and Raglan, and that was the character you'd have 4-piece on.
Was there like a second chance basically between like heroic and normal, where you could say, okay, like if say like another rogue already got heroic, then there's at least like an additional chance that he also loots it on normal and can trade it to you, or was that not worth running an entire raid for?
You would kind of balance efficiency and how much you can actually bring these characters in, right? Most of the people that looted things from Heroic, that would be in for the split that can trade to your potential main, right? But you can still get unlucky because it's not not guaranteed that you're going to get that tier.
It seems to have worked out pretty well for almost everybody, right? Like just looking at the first week, I think Liquid had like what 17 4-pieces, and
we did have 17 4-pieces, but we had quite a lot of guys that would have played that didn't have 4-piece. And we actually got a bit like when we killed Halandris, like me and Exile, he's the other rogue, we only had 2-piece, and Impact had 2-piece. I think we had like 4 players that were in with only 2-piece, and so it did work out that we were able to kill that boss, but I think we would have killed it a bit quicker if we all had 4-piece, I suppose. But it's just how it goes, you know.
It's how it goes, indeed. Unfortunately, my rogue that did not have any daggers, I only had the heroic dagger on my second rogue because I made it like so late into the tier. We even like last 2 weeks of mythic farm, we even tried like stacking like 8-10 rogues in our mythic raid Savannah skill, and we will still not get any daggers. And that was my main, because it looted. I think it was shoulders from Lords that looted.
And
so,
obviously, you had a raid with that, right? Like you had a raid with a a 246 or whatever because you didn't get a mythic one.
Yes, that's still a dagger that I'm using.
Oh my god! So
kill Jailer
Down bad.
with the 246 dagger.
How do you guys feel about like gear from last raid, like Sylvanas dagger, obviously for rogues being big, but also even things like Jathis or Old Warrior Soul? Those things are obviously huge for a lot of strength classes. Is that something that you guys enjoy? You guys enjoy having like a BIS item from an old raid, or does it impact how you feel about going into the race with a heroic dagger?
I mean, okay, so how do I put it? I am a bit biased because, in part, I think a lot of the reason why Rogue was able to be really, like, Sub-Rogue specifically was able to be geared really quickly and really well and itemized well because, like, you could, I mean, this is maybe a bit of a bigger topic, but from, like, PvP, you can just easily buy crit verse, right? And a lot of the BOEs are all crit verse and, like pretty much everything you want, whereas, like, for like a lot of the tier gear and stuff is not crit haste for like assassination. You can't buy crit haste from the PvP vendor. You need to get like crazy high item level weapons for it to be competitive. So in that sense, like it was good for Rogue. I don't think it's good necessarily, but like at the same time, I really don't think it's as big of a problem as people make it out to be. But that's just my personal opinion because, like, okay, one Sylvanas dagger is BIS in the offhand, like, and it like assassination doesn't even want it. Outlaw, I guess they want it, but like you don't even get to play outlaw anyways. And I don't know. It's an old Warrior Soul's only BIS for like a few DPS specs, and Jathus isn't even good anymore. It's just better to have 285, 278. So I don't know.
I mean, it's clearly bad for the game, right? We had to do Mythic Sylvanas, or like rather, it was like the third Mythic week of current raid in progress. We were missing a couple of players one day, like early in the day, and so we decided to use that time to get extra few pieces that we can get, so we can push DPS on Jailer. And we had some time to squeeze in Mythic Sylvanas. So doing Mythic Sylvanas during Mythic Raids to Wolfers in next raid is a really not good thing.
We had to do Mythic Fate Scribe to get a cheat death trick.
Yeah, like always stuff like that. Going back and getting items is not a great thing. But Sylvanas Dagger is being that strong. I think it helps the rogue a lot getting a raid spot in the guilds for the race to Wolfers. I feel like it would be a bit more shaky if you didn't have these daggers and.
Yeah.
Especially with how
saying
hard
this.
it is to get a dagger in the first place, right? Since there's no one who can trade you, so every funnel raid you would run for a weapon would literally just have to be all rogues every time. Compared to a lot of other classes where if you run a Japhis raid, for example, on KT, then you have a choice of like 3 different classes there that can help you get it, and that just makes the funnel raid itself a lot easier as well, right?
This comes back like all the way to BFA. I remember raiding in older. I did not have heroic dagger like 5 mythic weeks because there is no other class that can trade you or help you get the dagger, and I was like only rogue in my guild. So that kind of contributed to me hating the game, the way the loot system worked, and end up quitting in the end. The weapon tokens they used in Castlematic are amazing, and they should look back into that going into next expansion, I think.
Yeah, I think we got a lot of pushback on that, right? But it was not because people didn't like the token system. It was just that their choice of which classes to put on each token was just weird.
Yeah, it's the same classes that are using tiers right now, and priest, shaman, paladin tiers a bit sus compared to other ones for sure.
Yeah, especially with the weapons, right? Because we had warrior, monk, and rogue on one, and then obviously they all want like 2 weapon tokens. Some of them want 3 for like off specs and stuff. And then you compare that to like the caster token, which all of them just want 1. They're just gonna get a staff. And then you're sitting there and you go, yeah, I mean, I'd like 2 daggers and a slow main hand, and the warriors, they all want a shield for their offhand as well, maybe. And that kind of stuff.
Bring back artifact weapons.
True.
So true. And Azerite armor.
Yeah.
So funny story about this. I started playing Game Invasion, right? And you would always use artifact weapon. And first week of BFA, I was playing with the intellect dagger for like Mythic Plus splits. I did not realize I had the intellect dagger on because I never had to face like a weapon choice. I always used the artifact weapon. That was kind of.
I did that when I started playing Enhancement Shaman. Probably 3 weeks I was using an int mace, and then somebody in raid was like, "Guy, why do you have an int mace on your shaman?" I'm like, "Oh well,
Yeah. Hey, that used to actually be BIS and like Cataclysm, I think, where you were running like an agility weapon in your main hand, but a caster weapon in your offhand for the spell power.
Okay, calm down, old man.
I think I'm guessing for Race for World First Guild, the old gear doesn't really matter as much. To me, it's more of an issue for returning players. Like, considering how many Sylvanas daggers, even if you got one, you usually didn't loot it off the boss, right? You got it from your Great Vault at some point. And that's not an option anymore, because it's not in the loot pool anymore. So if you come back and you want to play a rogue alt, and you want to play subtlety because it's the go-to spec for a lot of encounters, then, I mean, what are you going to do? If you want to play rogue in M+ right now, what are you going to do? You can't get the weapon from a Great Vault,
I don't know,
right?
but that's what I mean, that I think it's just like overblown. My guy Sim's like 200 DPS less with just regular daggers than to have my mythic Sylvanas dagger in the offhand, and it's like, okay, I don't know, like that's you won't even notice. Like you could do more damage with no mythic Sylvanas dagger because you just get lucky 4-piece procs or something. And
true,
if you go into a raid and you do 14.5k DPS and then you've got your buddy who comes in and he does 14.7 because he has a Mythic Sylvanas dagger. Like, it's not even going to be the difference. And plus, I feel like a lot of the players that are coming back to the game, I don't know, if you're coming back to the game, most of the time they're more focused on having fun. Like, I don't know too many players that just like come back and then boom, they're in a guild that's already killing Mythic Jailer, right? So I don't know, like, to think that you have to come back to like farm an old Mythic item for 200 DPS, which is also less overall DPS in M+, is better to have 285 daggers. I don't know.
I like that message for one specific reason, because maybe all the people who are slowly losing their sanity in Court of Stars this week might start to realize that maybe that, 100 DPS upgrade ring isn't something you want to lose like half your lifetime over.
Yeah.
You'll still be able to perform.
Yeah. There's always been like these like weird niche, either
Chase
in like
items.
weird, chase items that I feel like a lot of people will kind of obsess over. Like I remember in, what was the raid? Nilotha? It was Diver's Folly. It was Coral. It was Fawn of Power. There's like a lot of these like old items that like personally for me, I like when items are like powerful. And having like chase items in old raids to keep them like somewhat relevant is something that I like. And just having like stuff like Diver's Folly and Sylvanas daggers are going to be items that people will remember forever. I'm never going to remember the sword that I got off of Denathrius, for example.
Yeah, that's true. I can see that. Like there's a certain narrative there, right? Where it's not just like the pure DPS performance that plays into it, but also just these, as you said, like these special items people will always remember, either fondly or not so fondly, but people will remember them, and that kind of resonance with the game, I think, is important for just sticking with it to some extent.
The last kind of gear thing that I want to touch on really quickly is the difference between Mythic Plus gear versus Raid gear. Obviously, in like Legion, when Mythic Plus first came out, Mythic Plus was crazy, and people overgeared Heroic and Mythic Week basically instantly. So now they had to put caps on for the item levels that drop in Heroic Week and all that stuff. But when you're doing, for example, splits in Mythic Week, how do you guys kind of handle the balance between like, oh, I need a specific slot, like I need boots, because I'm using garbage domination boots. Do I go into Mythic Plus? Do I spam Mythic Plus? Do I just wait until I do a split for a boss that already drops boots? Is that something you guys think about, trying to gear your character up?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely something you bring up to the officers who are making the splits and people in the background, right? They would maybe, if you're missing boots or some other leather item, they would put you in with more leather people that might be able to trade. But specifically for those off pieces, you wouldn't get like a full raid of shaders compared to like maybe a certain trinket that might be really broken for some fight, or of course tier piece where you have a guaranteed full group that's going to give you a tier piece.
Yeah. I think, most of the time you just go based off like, okay, so you clear Heroic and you've started to clear some Mythic bosses, and you see like, okay, I've got 5 items that are real weak. I can buy 1 PvP item and put it on 272. I can buy 1 M+ item and put it on 272. Then you look at the remaining Mythic bosses and the loot tables of those bosses, and you say like, okay, well, out of all these bosses, there's not a single one that drops boots until Ragallon. Ragallon drops 285 boots, and then Pantheon drops his first boots, but you don't play Rogue on Pantheon, so out of all of my Rogue remaining bosses, there's no boots. So boots look like a really good buy from the PvP vendor to 272 because like I have 252 boots or something. That's basically like my thought process, how I go about it. And then you buy it, and then there's like you feel no buyer's remorse because that's the best you could have got for a long time, probably.
How does it work with the splits in particular? Do you just make like a wish list and then you go to the people planning the splits like they're Santa and then you say, I want this, I want that, and they'll make it happen?
Well, we were kind of, yeah, but also you can't really like ask for everything. Like they're not going to put together a whole raid for you to get like 40 more DPS on like a boot upgrade from or like some item from like 259 to 265. But like if it is something that's important, they will for sure do it. So like when the Skolex trinket was overpowered and broken for a little while, we were gonna get that on every single melee player. And then when the Zymox, when we found out the Zymox trinket was pretty broken for Anduin intermission, we put it on everybody that could have possibly been in for Anduin, and we just sort of did that. But like honestly, this tier, because so much of your time was taken up from splits already, like trying to get tier, you didn't really have time to like farm out anything aside from like I think like Jailer Weapon, First Sigil, Zymox trinket, and maybe the Anduin ring. Maybe, I don't know. Did you guys farm anything else, Speed? I don't remember. Like,
Yeah, it was basically those items, right? The rings and the trinkets. Like other items, as I said, you would like just maybe be in a split where there's more leather people and they can maybe trade you. But it's not as important, obviously, as trinkets. But yeah, for trinkets, I remember for Zymox, we had a full raid that traded me trinkets. Kind of like Santa, honestly. This felt really like Santa. Like I was like, hey, it was actually. So I had this choice in the Mythic Week because my rogue got in the vault Mythic tier helmet with socket and heroic gloves. Heroic gloves would give me 3 sets, so I could complete 4 sets easily, right? And I already had the heroic tier helmet, right? So I had a choice of getting this insane upgrade to level the tier, right? It's basically the best slot with the socket. And using that, if we did the extra split for me to get the heroic gloves or normal gloves, and we actually did that. So it kind of felt like going to the Santa and saying, hey, can I get this perfect setup for a Mythic raid? Can I have this? And they just approve it and you get it.
Asking for the perfect setup and then still walking in with 246 Sylve Dagger feels good, man.
Yeah.
Good.
I mean, we tried, yeah. There were a lot of people helping. It just wasn't meant to be.
Yeah, it wasn't meant to be.
So from an actual rogue standpoint on the race, I just want to have a quick discussion about the 3 specs and sort of the balance that we've seen. Obviously, assassination starting from behind, not abusing Sylve Daggers, needing good weapons, all that kind of stuff. Outlaw, being bugged to hell and tuning not happening, and then just subtlety being the one spec that you always play in every situation. That's sort of the feeling that you guys got going into the tier. Did you guys ever consider assassination for maybe the burst damage? Did you ever consider outlaw and something like Lords or Pantheon or something like that?
We did not consider outlaw for any fight in the raid. We did consider assassination rogue for Pantheon and for Lords. I did end up playing rogue on Pantheon. It was a bit not perfect, as I would like it, because in last phase, like I would just dot up 4 mobs, for bosses, and I would have to like go far and kill like rituals because we were struggling with that rituals. Like I would have to dump all of my damage, like Vendetta and everything there, and then run back. It was kind of torture because you don't have as much movement speed as a rogue. But yeah, those 2 fights I was considering playing assassination. Everything else was sub rogue from the start.
Yeah, I think pretty much the same, except we were just planning on not playing rogue on Prototype Pantheon from the get-go. So the only way we're going to play Prototype Pantheon actually is because we knew from testing that you could reset the Ritualist with Vanish, but we were afraid of like Blizzard repercussions. And so then from that point onwards, we're like, all right, then Rogue is just not as good as the other classes here. Just play like 4 Survival Hunters or something.
Yeah, looking back at it, I do agree with that. It was probably better to bring something else. But I did get a mythic elegy that I ended up using for the rest of the progress,
Ooh,
which is
yeah,
pretty
that's-
good.
yeah.
And on that note, there's like a small trick that you can use with elegy if you are like doing a tier set swap. I mean, equipment swap, like with your legendary, right? Vanish legendary, where you vanish and then you get common points for slice and dice. If you unequip elegy from that set and then equip it in the actual set that you're using, elegy gives you all stats, all 4 secondary stats for like 10 to like 12 seconds, and that can last for your opener, so it's pretty useful to use.
That is the most degenerate thing that I have ever heard.
That was my
That
whole
sounds like
progress.
some secret tech for sure.
Yeah.
I just, oh god, I hate all the pre-pull stuff. All of the like
Yeah, same.
dagger swap, legendary swap, vanish into slice and dice, deathly shadows buff, invigorating shadow dust symbols pre-pull. God, I can't stand it.
Tome.
Yeah, I agree.
It reminds me of like playing a rogue in BFA, even like all these outlaw players needing to like roll until they got a good buff, and then do the adrenaline rush for the loaded dice and everything,
You know,
and swap and doing that every key.
So listen, so I was even doing that in Shadowlands, and then I can't remember who simmed it for me, but I had somebody sim where they forced the dungeon to start with a 5 buff in D slice, and then it was just regular from that point on, and it was like, I don't know, like a 0.1 or 0.2% DPS upgrade for me to sit there and waste like 10 minutes of 4 other people's time or whatever. And I'm like, okay, I'm never getting pre-pull buffs again in the history of World of Warcraft. Like, this is the dumbest thing. And the only reason I ever did it is because I saw all the other rogues getting the buffs also. So, yeah, it is not worth it all. It is, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, the closest thing to like making that worth is you do like adrenaline rush, roll, loaded dice, but then like your buffs are already, the 10-second timer starts. You wasted like, like, and the thing is like you can get like just a shitty 2 combo. It's like super irrelevant.
I think it's
This
more
is
like
the
a
secret
mental
strat.
thing, if anything.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
Like you feel like you're prepared the best
Yeah,
way.
yeah. I mean, I
It's
guess
like I always say in raid as well. Like when you finally decide to use a Ventus rune, everybody is technically supposed to do around 3% more damage, right? For a lot of people, it's going to be way more than that because they feel now we used Ventus, and then they get like a psychological, like a mental push, and they just do way more damage than they did all those other pulls before.
Yeah, I could see that.
Unless you're playing Warlock and you stack up your tier set to 9 stacks.
Yeah, I saw that. Like with the five.
Just go in
What are they
there and
called?
obliterate the first pack.
Like,
The Eternals, the Soul Shards or whatever.
Yeah, like now you could stack up the buff, and they would basically stack up to like similar to how the slice and dice sometimes, like as outlaw when you would end a dungeon and you would have like 14 minutes of slice and dice left.
it seems like it's just like a miss on Blizzard End because you have to spend 10 soul shards to get the free Chaos Bolt or Rain of Fire, right? And if you get that proc, that gives you free Rain of Fire or Chaos Bolt, that proc will reset. But if you get 9 stacks of the other buff, and then just get like first Rain of Fire and then you get the proc, that doesn't reset. So I think it's going to get fixed eventually.
Yeah.
It reminds
I'm
me
not
of,
so sure about that one. Warlock having secret tech that allows them to do extra damage, it seems like something that Blizzard is not going to fix until next expansion.
Warlock and Mage.
Yeah, Warlock and Mage. We hate Warlocks and Mages.
Do you guys remember Raw Den, where he had like a fast respawn, and then you would like Bloodlust Destro Warlocks, and they would actually deal like 80k DPS or some shit?
Yeah. That was used on the first kills on the boss.
Yeah, that was used on like the first. Yeah, because Destro Warlock could like solo the orbs because they were doing like actually like triple everybody's damage. Good times.
I don't think there was anything like this tier, right? Like there wasn't really any like super secret tech. I think like the best we had during the race was everybody who could play Necro everybody who could play Necro on Lords. That was really good. because you would just extend the end range by like 2 minutes or something.
Yeah, it's kind of. I'm kind of happy that like Covenant thing got finally used in Raid or like Mythopus, because I feel like that, like all of the hero crafters from Mythopus and Raid, when they saw that ability, they said like, oh, this could be used for this or that, but never found a use. And finally, at the end, Lords of Dread was a perfect usage for it, and it was kind of cool strat.
Yeah, it was usually just like, the extra 10 seconds, and maybe the dot ticks would help you take something down. But yeah, that was kind of crazy, like that level of coordination and everything to make sure that you would still be able to get as much time hitting and killing the bosses.
Yeah, it actually reminds me of the Combat Rush food from the Boomkin Combat for first Sylvanas kill from Echo, right? They did that thing, and then it got nerfed like next reset.
Oh yeah, true.
The other thing I wanted to ask was, after you guys got your tier sets, you guys feel significantly weaker than other specs. Like you walk in with a heroic week with nothing, you pump, and then you walk in mythic week, everyone has their 4 set. You guys get smashed. Like, was that a weird feeling, or was it just walk in, you're like, oh, my 4 set didn't proc, my 2 set didn't proc, guess I do no damage? That affects like any kill pulls, or you guys have any moments where it's like, oh well, if my 4-piece procced, we wouldn't have wiped the ads on Zymox or something like that?
Nothing actually related to tier. There was one full on Raiklon. I was just kind of joking because Perfecto had 3 more item levels than me, and I was like, man, if I were 274 item level right there, we would have killed the boss because we wiped at like 200k health or something. But I actually, I don't know, maybe I had good 4-piece RNG, but I didn't notice it too much.
Did notice it only during Halondra's progression, because like I was on separate voice with my rogue partner, right, for the bomb, and you just like sometimes glance over the meters and you just see one of us popping off, and oh yeah, he got the proc side, no I didn't, or he got like insane Shadow Blaze uptime and so.
Yeah, that's true.
And we briefly went over this already, like towards the start, but rogue tuning at the start of the race or heroic week versus like tuning at the end, kind of looking towards the future. There's crazy items now, like the strength mace off the jailer that's simming at like plus 1500 for warriors, and like the pre-strings, for example. Obviously, we don't have any cantrips in the raid, but a lot of other classes do. So as they get more geared, then obviously they get more damage than we do. Do you guys think that affects rogue viability for some of the lower ranked guilds that are going to be progging for the next month or two?
I think viability is still going to be the same. Only thing that could be affected, maybe your decision on which spec you want to play, because I feel like eventually with every item you can have, right, assassination could maybe overtake sub on a couple of fights.
Yeah, the only thing I would think is like if you're going to be progging some of the harder mythic bosses like later on in the tier, like I have a hard time believing that those players would have like access to way better gear than we had access to. Like it wouldn't really make sense if the guild is more casual to like all of a sudden their rogues are like 10 item levels higher than us or something, because you can only upgrade so much with like Valor and Conquest. So
I agree. I meant like maybe as your choice of using spec on farm or something like that.
Yeah.
Better on the boss.
Oh yeah. I could see that for sure. Yeah, but yeah, I think rogue should be fine for most guilds. As long as you have enough warriors to press rallying cry, you'll be good.
Yeah, I think it's a direct benefit of melee being more viable, like in Shadowlands. When I look back to like older raids, I feel the reason why oftentimes you would just like not bring a rogue was largely related to you just not having that many melee slots. But now there's really no reason to not bring like 6, 7, maybe even 8 melee on any given encounter anymore. So I think for a lot of guilds, it won't come down to tuning. It's gonna just be how well do you play. Like there's a niche for almost every spec on almost every boss, I feel, depending on how good you play and then how proficient you are at each individual spec.
Agreed. I think you have to complement Blizzard balancing between melee and range spots in the latest expansion. It has been better than ever.
Yeah, fights like Holandris and what's the other really good man? Oh, the Lords of Dread. Lords of Dread and Holandris are just like, they're very, very nice in regards to like making sure melee has like a spot in raid.
Yeah, definitely feels that way.
How do both of you guys feel about like the design for all three of the specs in regards to the tier sets?
Not a fan of RJ for sub. Sub has always been reliable and like super technical spec, right? So if you play good, you can get good results. But right now, this is turning into borderline outlaw gameplay where you get procs and you don't. And although you perform good, I'm not fan of that gameplay. It kind of reminds me of playing Windwalker last year, where you get procs or you didn't get procs. Even though I enjoy playing Windwalker, I did not enjoy that gameplay. Like even you like perform very good mid pass, it was not enjoyable playing like that.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. I almost prefer the earlier version of this. Now that I've like got to experience it, I almost prefer the earlier version of the sub tier set when it procced more frequently, but it like didn't interact, because now there's like so many layers of RNG to it that, I mean, you can just do so much more damage if you get lucky, and it doesn't happen that frequently, but when when you get unlucky in a situation that is important, it feels really, really bad, and you like remember those times more often than you remember the times where you get lucky in a situation that doesn't matter, and I just don't really like that element of it. But I guess that just comes from being like the higher level content you do, the more that's going to be a consideration, I guess. But I think I like the assassination tier set personally, but for Outlaw, I'm not the biggest fan. But Outlaw is like, maybe the tier set would be better if Outlaw were in a better state in general. But like, it just feels a bit underwhelming compared to the other two. Personally, I don't know.
Yeah, I like the design for the Outlaw tier set. It just so happens that the spec is undertuned, and then the tier set is also undertuned, so it kind of just compounds on itself, where it's just it kind of falls by pretty fast.
I don't know. I don't even like the free between the eyes. Like, I would have rather had, I don't know, something. You don't even notice it, right? It's just like, okay, boom, there's like 8k damage like in the background, or 10k or whatever it is. Like, you didn't even see it happen. But like, for the other specs, you can like feel it. Like sub, you see you get the combo points. It feels good to press your black powder over and over. And then like assassination, you feel your dots ticking forever, and you got infinite haste, and you're like zooming, right? And then Outlaw is just like, okay, I guess there it is.
It's a lot less punchy, mostly because a lot of the power of the tier set is the cooldown and not actually the between the eyes.
Yeah,
the cooldown from the between the eyes is the powerful part, not the actual between the eyes.
See, I wish they could have done like a cannon barrage, like a ghost, someone was talking about it. There was like some, I don't know if it was a talent or what it was, but it was like a rain down from the skies, like some big AoE bang on your
right?
Yeah. That's what.
Cannonball barrage.
Yeah, that would have been nuts. And then you could have seen it and it would have interacted with the CDR.
So that was actually an ability that made me play Rogue when I started playing Rogue when I started playing the game Legion, right? I was like grateful that he was streaming, and like I have no idea about WoW, and I just opened his stream because he has like so many viewers, and I see him using that ability, and he's using like a grappling hook, and this looks cool, and I want to play Outlaw Rogue.
Yeah, he was playing. I remember watching him do PvP, and he was like on the beta or whatever, like the PTR for Legion, and he was just cannonball barraging people. It was good stuff.
Yeah. Good memories.
At least you could somewhat feel like that with the Tall War trinket, yeah?
Yeah, dude, that trinket was so good. I love that thing.
Cannonball runner, let's go. I love 50
Probably one of
gold.
the worst trinkets in the game.
Oh, it's so bad.
Yeah,
Like,
the cannon. Yeah, that thing sucked.
I remember talking to Kojiyama about it during BFA because I had a couple people who were like, "Oh, it sims really bad, but like the tooltip damage and the details damage, like none of this is making any sense. Like the numbers aren't adding up." And then we figured out that uh, in Sims, the cannonball runner would always hit because it would just like always face the target because that's what it was assumed for. But in reality, when it spawned in a random direction, so it could just completely miss because it just went backwards.
Okay. I didn't even know that. That's how little I cared for that trinket, I guess.
Yeah, that trinket
it-
also got
so
line
bad.
of sighted by like the tiniest lips in the world, like on the ground. It's a terrible trinket.
It's so bad. It's so terrible.
Yeah, I think. Oh, one other thing I was gonna say about Outlaw. I wish I don't know what the spec needs, but like the spec has just never been, at least since I've been like following the Race World First. Like, I mean, I've only really been playing seriously since Shadowlands, but like I remember watching the Race World First in Uldir and onwards, pretty much. But I just wish there were an opportunity to play Outlaw, and like I thought maybe that was gonna be Lords of Dread because like we went. Like when we went to the Revendreth and like, okay, I was getting my damage amped on Blade Flurry and like it could be decent. Like who knows? Because at that point we didn't know what they were going to end up doing with the tuning because the whole tier set was still fucked. And like I don't know. It needs to be like turbo broken. I feel like to play it in Race the World First because there's like the RNG element, and then it doesn't have any burst, and it doesn't scale that well with Lust. And like me and Speed were talking about that, but like that's kind of a big deal for like it seems to be like where the meta is sort of going for like this high end rating. It's just much more valuable to have those aspects. And I don't know. I've been a bit sad that I can't play Outlaw really.
Yeah,
I think-
it comes back to that hasting, right? It's badly designed. I feel like all three Vogue specs. I mean, I guess Assassination gains something from haste, but if you don't gain anything from haste, I feel like there's something should be checked and changed.
It's something I've always, or that I've been kind of on a crusade against. It's just the overall design of the game feels very cooldown based, and so if your class doesn't have like a cooldown you notice on the meters, then your class is bad.
Yeah,
That can be just an overall thing, or it can be a very like burst related thing. I mean, like Boomy is probably one of those classes that always performs pretty like not even that great on the meters when we look at an overall perspective, but because of how strong their burst is, you'll always find a way to utilize that. And I feel like the exception maybe of Assassination this time around, like none of the specs just provide that level of consistency in their burst. You said it earlier as well with like the variance on the sub damage output is just way too high, and there will always be pulls where you feel like, oh, I mean, we didn't make a DPS check now because I didn't get any procs or something like that. That's just poison for any progression environment, right? You need that consistency and you need that control over when you apply your damage, because that's the way that people approach strategizing for mechanics. If there's an ad that needs to be killed, you'll assign exactly 3 people maybe on it. And if you don't have any noticeable burst damage, then I mean, what are you going to do?
always going into the raid, burst is king, and everything else follows. But something I don't know how long Rogue has been in the GCT capped on 1 second.
Always.
Always been like that. Yeah. If they can find some way of haste interacting with specs and maybe look at masteries, like I feel like usually if a spec is performing good, that means they have a really good mastery that's like interacting with your spec, or like it's performing good. Like, and then you look at Outlaw, where I'm not sure what that is, but it exists for some reason.
Yeah. It's not very good.
I don't know. I feel like it's also like not only is it cooldown based, but maybe I'm just imagining it, but it feels like more and more is like moving towards, you know, like just lust phases and burn phases.
Yep.
Where like my raid leader is super hyped when we lust. he plays a warlock, but like during Sylvanas, during Lahuvum, like oh, we're gonna lust here and we're gonna blow up the boss and it's gonna explode. We're just gonna melt this shit. It's so much damage. And then we hit lust, and I'm like, I'm just doing the same thing that I would have done without the lust. Like
nothing has changed.
Yeah.
like I'm autoing faster, I guess.
Whoa, more combo points as sub rogue. Let's go.
Yeah,
I
you
love
even
that.
see it with PI, right? Like
Yeah.
we get PI, and even if you get like a noticeable chunk of damage from it, it doesn't translate into gameplay feel and feedback, like during your mechanical gameplay at the PC. It's not like you're sitting there and suddenly you can't even keep up anymore with your GCDs, yeah. Like Boomy's doing the last stages of their frenzy, for example, literally just being like smashing their keyboard because they can't get their spells out out fast enough.
Yeah, coming back to the PI thing, like we did the testing on PTR where we would like test who can funnel the most, right? Which specs and like for certain situations. We were thinking about Andon and stuff like that, and we had like Rogue topping funnel, right? And then someone suggested who's completely clueless should be maybe like PI Rogue, and the like rest of us who knew, we just laughed at it. It was kind of funny.
Yeah.
Look how much damage he's doing, dude. Give him PI.
One thing I will say is there were quite a few good fights this tier that, like, I think the burst damage part, like, argument is, like, not a big deal. Like, Halandris, Ragalon, and Jailer, I feel like any of these, like, longer bosses where your steady, consistent DPS does have a time to shine, they did do good designing in that sense, but it was funny story, like, on Ragalon, when we were progressing, so we only have one legendary, and you lust on pull, right? You lust potion on pull, and there were like most of our first like 40 pulls or so, like we would live at most 2 minutes, right? And it was like a 7-minute, 10-second fight, and they were like looking at the meters, and they're like, "Man, like, what is Rogue even doing here? Like, is Rogue even good? Like I thought it was good single target." I'm like, well, yeah, of course I'm going to be losing. Like, it's a 1 minute long fight where you lusted for 40 seconds of it and you post it. And I was like, just trust me. Like, by the end of the fight, if the fight goes for more than 5 minutes, I'll be up there. Just trust me. And I actually almost got subbed out, even though I didn't make a single mistake, because they just thought the damage was bad because we kept wiping it 2 minutes.
Yeah.
But in the end, like, Rogue did really, really good damage on Ragalon. And, like, I think Halandris is the same way in Jailer. But, yeah.
It was a good rogue, yeah, I think, in like overall, comparing it to some of the last ones in the last like 2 expansions, I think that the tier was one where, despite all the hiccups and issues that the plagued rogue and the tier sets and the lack of value of a second legendary and all that kind of stuff, we still came out looking pretty strong, I think.
I think Rogue is strong. There's just fights where Rogue is unplayable on. Like, Lords of Dread and Anduin are so bad for Rogue in comparison to, like Rogue is very good on Halandris. I think it's pretty good on Jailer, like, even just, like, in boss damage and execute, but it just has, like, unplayable fights because it just doesn't have, like, a burst AoE cooldown.
To be fair, you think that it's unplayable on Lords because for you, Rogue only has 2 specs.
Well, no, even like on any of the specs, it's just like it doesn't perform nearly as well as like Survival Hunters or like Warlocks.
Yeah, I think with the change now though, Assassination actually does pretty well on Lords.
I do disagree with Anduin though. I think Rogue has a spot on Anduin. It's obviously not, you're not going to shine as much as some other specs, but I think you provide some decent utility and stuff. For example, we never sent Rogue inside, but he was always outside and funneling into the boss, which all the damage would end up mattering in the end. And then for intermission, I'm not sure, feel like some people might have been a bit misplaying. You could actually get 2 tornadoes and 3 symbols on the Remnant, and you could actually do really competitive damage on the Remnant. You wouldn't do as much as Warlocks and Hunters, I think. But you would be up there, right with them, depending on the pull rate, how much you get for procs and stuff like that. And then in the second phase, on the Grim Reflections, the Fear ads, we would always use a kidney to start off on every ad, because killing those ads would eliminate more chances of killing those ads faster would eliminate chances of wiping. and having the prey of the week, right? Is it Daunt from the last one?
Yeah.
Would just help everybody kill them faster. And I was like also good lockout for the casts.
Yeah, we were looking at playing Lords, but there was a point, like Rogue on Anduin, and like we started off with Rogue on Anduin, but there was a point at like 30 seconds or 30 pulls in, I was like, okay, this just does not feel good if I'm going down in a group.
Yeah.
But if you let me stay up the whole time, then that's fine. But if there's no way that you can let me stay up the whole time, then you need to sub me out and swap. And so we ended up doing that, and then we also swapped out enhance, or the second enhance, I think.
Yeah. Basically the same, right? I told my raid leader right away, like 2 pulls in, going inside. I told him I'm not doing anything inside. Don't send me inside. Leave me upstairs. And they made it work without me. They had enough damage, and it worked out in the end.
Oh, that's fair.
Also, one more thing is immunity in the end, right? If fight worked properly, right, that could have ended up being a difference maker, right, where you could immune the debuff in the end and you didn't have to clear.
Yeah, that's true. It's like these small things kind of where I feel that gave Rogue the value and that made it somewhat viable. I'm also thinking about like Halondros and Jailer in particular here, where I feel that for all the issues we've talked about earlier with like the Sylvanas daggers, I think those were 2 of those bosses where the Sylvanas daggers were actually playing a somewhat noticeable role in us being as good as we were in those fights. Because yeah, I mean, just having like that extra damage in the most critical phases is something that we've always talked about with Assassination and Soldic potentially being like the best legendary, and that ultimately never became like it was never true except for maybe Denafris. And then here we have the Sylvanas daggers actually playing that role by themselves.
Yeah.
You definitely did have a spot as a rogue, but at times it did feel as you're just only there doing damage compared to some other classes that are bringing way more than you. Like almost every other class in the raid or DPS class in the raid had something extra than damage, right? They had the rower or gateway or healthstones, or they were bringing raid buff or raid cooldown. And then you're just like sitting there and doing damage, and it kind of does feel bad. It felt bad for me, like in the raid, like doing that. So hopefully it's something changes.
It's kind of this role of being a filler class. So like Rogue is not a class that any raid leader or anyone who's like building a comp thinks of in terms of like filling the first 10 spots. But then usually when all is said and done and all the important stuff is being taken care of already, the question usually becomes, okay, who's doing who do we have left who's not already in, who's doing a lot of damage? And then thankfully this time around Rogue was among the list of those. But it would certainly be nice to have like this unique thing again, like thinking back to some older bosses where Rogue was the first class you thought of, like who could take care of like special phases on some bosses that no other class could, and then Rogue was the only one who could do it. And I wish we had that kind of stuff back. We'll see.
It's kind of a good segue. So kind of nearing the end, so we have a couple of fun questions, and then if anyone listening wants to put something into chat, and anyone has a question, we have podcast questions as a channel in Discord. So if you just have like a Q&A thing that you want to do, just pop that in there. And, we'll pick a couple to do. But the first question is, with the new expansion coming soon, obviously we have an announcement in 3 days. Is there any big hopes that you guys have for Rogues going into the expansion? Is there anything that you would like to see?
I would just want some form of like raid or group utility, and Outlaw Rogue gets uncapped. Those are my only 2. I think if they hit either one of those, actually, I would prefer the. They gotta hit both. I don't think I'd be happy if they just give one. But well, if they give raid utility, I'd be happy, but I'd still be complaining on Twitter, right, about the Outlaw thing. So.
Yeah, basically that bomb. We want to see that bomb, yeah.
Oh, bomb.
No.
I remember hearing early on there was like some people mentioning things about like there was supposed to be raid utility coming to Rogue in this patch. Might be just Gigacopium, but it was something like you get Smoke Bomb and then you could augment the Smoke Bomb with Cloak of Shadows and Evasion to like juice it up or something.
Oh,
That would be sick,
Somebody.
dude.
But that would be kind of sick.
That was Gigacopium. I think the most believable kind of rogue utility copium was that you could have a poison on that could fill the role of monk debuff or demon hunter debuff.
Oh, both?
Well, not
No,
both,
you
but
would-
like
you would-
either
No,
or.
no, but
Depending on which one you wanted.
No,
Yeah.
but I want both.
I mean, sure, but you also want Outlaw to be viable, so...
Listen, man, come on.
Beggars can't be choosers.
Personally, I feel giving us defensive... I don't want DPS classes to have defensive utility. I think that should be left to tanks and healers. If there is utility, especially for a class like Rogue, it should be something offensive. I don't know what. Maybe they... I hate to say it, but maybe bring back the old tricks of the trade that gave a damage boost to a specific...
No, God,
No.
please.
No.
Yeah,
Incorrect.
I know.
External buff, no.
Okay. I like Crimson Cauldron. Gives your whole raid, like the PvP talent, like a Crimson Vial,
Ooh.
and like a Warlock Hellstones, or
Yeah.
the poison. You could go with either like a crit damage poison or a damage increased when mobs are under 30% health, like an execute poison. You could do that, right? That'd be okay.
Yeah.
But
I like the Crimson Cauldron thing because like that nerfs warlocks.
It's something that
It's two birds with one stone.
Oh yeah, wait, this change is perfect.
Oh, the other one is when you shroud, you give your raid 15% damage or 10% damage because you can shroud and shadow dance like mid combat. So you can, like, shroud,
Okay.
shroud on the lust.
But only one class, only one spec could do that, right? Like as in Asaru,
Yeah.
you would have to vanish and
You'd have to
not doing
vanish
damage for 10
shroud.
seconds.
So I'm just Giga broken forever
Okay.
as an AoE like second.
Imagine you would only bring Outlaw for the you would spam reroll for TBs to get more vanishes, so you could stand
So you
AFK
can
in
shroud.
Shroud to boost your rate.
Imagine the call out, dude. All right, Lust and Shroud here.
Oh yeah, dude, I
Yeah.
love that.
I think it could be cool to have something like mass shadow step or mass grappling hook, where you like it's like let's say 5-minute cooldown where you go into a certain position, right, and then you grip everybody towards yourself. So like mass grip as a DK, but opposite. So you're gripping all teammates in a certain spot.
That'd be busted. I love
That
that.
would probably more be like a priest thing though, but I do like the idea of just like we have so much unique raid utility right now, and I think like leveling the playing field by just having all range that have unique utility have like one other melee class that can provide the same. And I definitely agree that something like the Crimson Vial that you can trade, which is already the case for people, would definitely be nice to replace the Healthstones. And I'm sorry to disappoint you, guy, but you'll never get rid of a Warlock for as long as you don't immediately respawn on a boss after you wiped it. As long as that's the case, you'll not be dropping a Warlock because Soulstone is just saving too much time on progression.
Listen, man, it's baby steps, okay? First, it's Crimson Cauldron, okay? Then the next step, give somebody else a Soulstone, okay? We're on a mission to defeat Warlocks, okay?
I can get along with that for sure. Warlocks are
Where's
bane of my-
the fucking engineering pylon that we had in BFA? What happened to that thing? Failure detection
I think it was
pylon.
Legion, right? Like the failure protection pylon that you would just drop and then you could rest after. I love that shit.
Where did that go?
They removed it for BFA. They didn't like the fact that people were just like death skipping through dungeons and stuff, and then rest at a location that they wanted to rest at, and so they just made it not work anymore. It's really sad because I thought that served multiple purposes, right? Not only was it like a Soulstone-like ability that was really cool, but it also just made it so that you didn't necessarily need Shroud for certain skips or anything. You could just like always death skip somewhere. The rogue would just allow you to not have to die and lose like 20 seconds, and that was like a trade-off you had to take. But yeah, engineering professions in general, I think, are a good avenue to just evening out the fact that some classes have a shit ton of utility. And my fear is that they'll look at this tier and they'll say, oh yeah, Rogue has Prey on the Weak, and it was useful on one boss in BFA and on one boss in Shadowlands, that's good enough.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Speed, did you get a chance to mention some stuff you're looking forward to? Like potential, new rogue ideas, talents, balance, anything in regards to rogue?
Yeah, I said the mass.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, of course, with cooldown of some sorts. But that's about it, I think. Maybe we could. Oh, okay, never mind. That's it.
No, say it.
No, I was gonna take over the podcast and say we could segue into what ability you want to bring from this expansion to the next one.
Oh yeah, let's do one ability you want to come back from any expansion.
Oh
God,
from any expansion. I don't have a lot of experience, right? I started playing
No,
Invasion.
just name one that you dig.
I mean, not sure, but I would some sorts of mobility, abilities, so maybe soul shape, something like that. That would be really cool.
Speed. Do you know about a talent called Burst of Speed?
That would have been my suggestion, actually.
No.
It was a 3-second cooldown. It cost 30 energy, and it was a 70% movement speed increase.
Yeah, it was spammable. It was basically a spammable movement speed at the cost of some energy.
Yeah.
It's like Burning Rush. Burning Rush, but without the health cost.
Yeah,
that would be it then for me, for sure.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm sucker for mobility, for sure. I'm playing Windwalker often, so...
I think mine personally, even though I would probably go with Burst of Speed, but just to vary it a little bit. I know I've been a staunch no Kingsbane enjoyer, but honestly, looking at how cooldowns line up and everything these days, and how important it is to have some cooldowns, and how much I hate lead spec Sin right now, Kingsbane is looking pretty good to me. I kind of really enjoy Kingsbane. I feel like it also, if you brought it back as just an overall thing, it would actually fit in, I think. Even for Outlaw, I think it would be fine to have just Kingsbane just as a thing. And you could augment it, right? So you could have nature damage Kingsbane for assassination. You could have a mixture of whatever the sub one was, Gorfiend's Maw, Gorfiend's thing. So you'd have a shadow damage, a shadow damage Kingsbane that happens, just sort of like Flag, I guess. And then for Outlaw, I don't know. You guys do pirate things, but
yeah, we'll figure it out.
Cannonball Brush.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, just augments Kingsbane to do cannonballs. Perfect. That makes sense.
Yeah, I want
for Sin, I like Shrouded Suffocation. Or I just would like my growth to hit for a lot, I guess. I didn't really play too much BFA, so I don't know too much. But for sub, I think I want Preparation back. If you guys ever played back then. And for Outlaw, I like to keep Count the Odds.
Okay.
Yeah, because I don't know, dude. The last time I played Outlaw was you have Mouse over Bone Spike, Mouse over Mark for Death. You had all this stuff going on, and you had Count the Odds. So you get buffs all over the place. Now you're gonna have nothing. It's gonna feel real weird going into the next expansion. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm kind of down for Count the Odds to be baseline. I feel like it works with the the redesign for Roll the Bones that went from BFA where you just spam rolled. But I do want probably Swiftblade's Cunning. It's kind of like a cheat answer. It's literally just a raid buff. It's just everybody gets haste and multi-strike, so just haste and crit, 5%. And just bring that back. There's a raid buff. Easy.
And then...
I don't know. I guess for Assassination, I like Hunger for Blood, but a redesigned version. Probably no one remembers even what that is, but basically an ability that lets you consume your dots and gain a benefit from that. I always like that idea. Same with Shadow Priest had an ability, a similar ability at some point, where it would just give you the ability to remove your dots. Not only is it nice for situations where you actually have to DPS stop and you're sitting there as a rogue and all your bleeds are ticking, and someone's checking the logs afterwards and saying, "Oh, hey, why did you keep doing damage?" And then, I mean, yeah, sorry, nothing I can do about it. It also gives you the ability to troll someone else and taking their bleeds instead of yours.
How does this actually work? Like, what kind of
it was. I mean, it was really boring. It was basically just it consumed the bleed effect, and then you would deal 3% more damage, and you could do that 3 times. So it was like a 9% damage, and basically, the good thing was that it would also just like remove like deep wounds from a warrior instead of your bleeds. If you just didn't bleed up the enemy, and then you cast it 3 times, and you would just take away the warrior DPS.
Based.
But I just like this idea. Like, I guess the other one would maybe like be Vein Rippers from like the Anima power, where like you press a button and then all bleeds, all your dots get consumed for like one big like burst damage, on single target AoE. I like this like build up. Because I mean, for me, that's always been at the core of Rogue. Is just you build combo points, you do big dam with your finishers, and somehow none of the Rogue specs actually do that anymore. So I would definitely like returning to that core fantasy of building combo points to unleash big damage at the end of it.
Just want to point out that no one said death from above.
Oh, okay,
Good.
Death from above for sure. For sure,
Good.
Death from above. That's my fantasy. Yeah, I'll take
Man.
that.
Simp. You like getting pulled to the opposite side of the boss, dude?
It was fine. You could like play around with like walking out of the range of Ivashar and then using it and stuff like that. It was fine. It was just a cool looking ability.
It was
Good
kind of
wish.
sick looking.
Yeah, it looked sick. It felt sick on sub, but just the movement is so
and Taurus
jank on it, dude.
Sub-Rogue. Dude, and Taurus Sub-Rogue was a rare form. That spec was so good.
Yep.
So as a kind of a follow-up, if you could steal one ability from any spec in the game, healer spec, tank spec, doesn't matter, one ability and one ability only, and put it on your rogue, which would it be?
All
Probably.
the time.
All the time's a good one.
Always Riley.
Guy with the raid utility.
Dude,
And the
Alter,
broken raid
you
utility.
could do such flashy plays with like Alter, double step, man, Shadow Strike, door. Like, you would be crazy.
It's just such a fun ability, right? Because there's offensive uses to it, there's defensive uses to it. You can coordinate it with the raid. It has everything baked into it. I just love it, especially as a melee. I feel it would be really cool to just be able to have the ability to return. I mean, Monk already has it to a certain extent as well, right? With Transcendence. And
Yeah.
I'm guessing Speed played around with that a lot. Just utilize Transcendence in offensive ways wherever possible.
Yep. Can confirm. I would probably steal maybe Meta. It's
Meta.
Meta as a rogue.
My
What will we turn into,
meta.
though?
yeah. I don't
we
know.
turn
Just
into?
like, what will we turn into?
Turn into Rule 34
And
Vanessa
win.
Van Cleef.
Nah, it's just like a big ass Reaper or something.
It's just always so cool when you can like avoid a mechanic by using Meta.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Just like always nice feeling. And then of course you turn into Big Demon.
I would honestly steal Darkness just because I want to feel like I have Smoke Bomb back.
Smoke Bomb was better. There were like 2 encounters, I think, if I remember correctly, where it wasn't just a damage reduction that was really good, but you could actually, like the other part of Smoke Bomb actually worked, where the boss was unable to target you with a mechanic.
Yeah, you could group up ads and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, very broken.
Incredibly broken, yeah. That's why we're really happy that they got rid of it.
Yeah, super happy. I guess we should move into the Q&A.
Yep.
Sure. Let me check what we got going on. If the system for 10.0 is dragon aspects, which flights do you want to represent?
I'm picking the Black Dragon flight.
Oh.
What colors are there?
So there's
That's
so
a
there's-
focus player right there, yeah? Asking him a lore question, and he's like, sorry, what?
Sorry, there's colors. So there's what? Red, blue, green, black,
And
and
bronze.
yeah, and bronze.
Technically, that's Twilight as well, but I guess we'll
Yeah,
talk
those
about
guys,
that one.
those aren't real.
Is the idea that you're gonna get different abilities, right? But is it
Yeah,
not?
so basically, if you wanna tie like a niche or word to it, it's like bronze is time, blue is magic, green is nature, red is life, and black is, I think, earth. And then usually that will tie in some way to their abilities.
Probably, I guess if I had to pick one, I don't know, bronze. Since we're talking about alter time.
Oh, okay, nice connection.
Yeah, I don't know. Either whichever one does the most damage, or whichever one is the most useful.
Come on, dude.
I don't know about the dragons, man.
That's fair.
Definitely
So,
one that does.
You will soon enough. It's only what, 2 more days?
Yeah, true.
No, 3 more days.
That's 3.
It's actually crazy how soon it is. But no, I bet Rampam would pick green actually.
Oh yeah.
I can see Rampam being a green guy.
And a green goblin.
Green Goblin Ram fam.
But what about you, Speed?
I can join Ram and green. It reminds me of my favorite spec, which is a Windwalker. So yeah.
Oh yeah, green would probably get Port Tender as well. So you could Port Jump even after Shadowlands is over.
Which non-rogue specs do you guys enjoy the most?
Right now or all time?
Probably right now.
Right now, it's Survival Hunter for sure. It's so much fun.
What about it? Is it just like the damage, or is it the actual like, rotation?
I don't know. It's like I feel like you don't have that much stuff, but you kind of have that, like a lot of stuff, like all these small stuff, that like stun and then traps and disengages and hook back in, and like playing with small stuff that you have. Like you don't have like big defenses, but you have feign that, and if you play good, you can kind of get the reward and stuff like that. And then playstyle wise, I mean, it just does a lot of damage, which definitely factors into having a lot of fun. And but rotation wise, like similar to Windwalker, kind of, because you get procs, and the procs do a lot of damage. That's about it.
For me, it will be Enhanced Shaman.
Oh,
I really
let's
like
go.
Enhanced. Yeah, it's so fun. Like it's well, I mean, I don't know if it's fun in M+, but in Raid, it's really fun. And I don't even have the 4-piece yet. I only have 2-piece and double legendary, but it's so fun. It was even fun last year, but now this tier, like watching Trill and Impact, it looks so fun.
Yeah, the fact that they made the change where Lava Lash spreads.
Yeah. Oh,
the
that's
flame
so
shock.
so.
Oh,
big.
it's so good, dude. Because now you just always go hot hands, and you don't feel like you're like trolling an AOE. Where now you're just blasting nonstop. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
Isn't Enhanced just better version of Alpha?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Loki,
Yeah.
Kinda, yeah.
And it has
Spam
inventory.
buttons, million procs, fucking fireballs shooting everywhere. It's
Has
good.
Wind Rush for everybody.
Yeah.
Are we
It
just
can all-
talking
it
like
can all
in right
proceed,
now,
though.
the specs, or just in general, like even from the past?
Just this patch.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I don't have alts. Yeah, I mean, I do have a Brewmaster alt, and I did actually quite like tanking on Brew this expansion. Overall, I think that I know people will hate me for the answer, but I think that even if it's like nerfed and really requires PI to perform well, I think Demolog ultimately is a fairly deep spec to really like get all the damage out, because it's like so ramp heavy. And I do kind of like that, and like the min-maxing you can do with the imps, and like max ranging or outranging the boss, so you get like slightly more imps before you like portal back into range of the boss to get like the higher value tyrant and that kind of stuff. I kind of like that for sure.
to expand on that, I'm playing a little bit of Warlock now as well, and I haven't played that much casters in the past. Maybe like Shaman, thought of the Shaman at some point. But as you said, like positioning and imps outraging, you definitely get different perspective, like on the range playstyle, and you get to appreciate how important is positioning as a range, and that ends up being actually the biggest skill cap ceiling, or however you say it, right? If you position properly, you can actually, it affects your damage a lot.
Yeah, like for most range, it kind of doesn't matter. I guess we had like the Frost Mages in BFA that needed to be like in a certain range to get the double flurry proc going on the boss. But beyond that, like most ranged really don't care where they stand. And I think having like a range spec that actually still does care about like the exact range at where you're standing at and how that affects your output and your rotation, I think that's cool.
Okay. We also had a question to make up a Season 4 affix for raid bosses, but I kind of want to limit that a little bit. So, let's say that you're going into Nathria and you're walking up to Sludge Fist. What is the most evil affix you could think of for Sludge Fist?
Quaking.
I was gonna say storming.
Oh yeah, storming as well.
Storming's pretty bad.
Oh man. Yeah, quaking would be.
Don't you have a quaking? Wait, don't you already have a quaking? Like when you have to spread.
You know,
Yeah,
because
but most
like,
you want to stand together, right? So you want to kind of stack as much as you can, and then only spread during like this one specific moment of the fight.
Like it's already hectic when you have 5 people in M plus that all need to spread for quaking, but if you have like maybe 15 players or so, or 12 or however many it was, that all have to spread, and then they're gonna spread too far and snap their chains.
No, but that was already mechanic. Am I missing something? Like when
that was like a planned spread, right? Where you would like
when the stomp was coming in, you were like echoing around you, and that's why you needed to make sure that you were spreading. But beyond that, you could like stack with your chain partner.
Yeah, but quaking doesn't come like all the time, right?
I mean, sure, but then maybe there's a bad order, right? Like maybe you skip a quaking and then you don't get a bad overlap. But yeah, you're right. I guess on like a boss with a fixed timer, you'd always get it at the exact same time. So maybe it wouldn't even be that bad.
Yeah, storming would be fun.
The first few pulls would be funny. Oh, with quaking.
Yeah, I like mechanic because it doesn't affect people in melee, so it only fucks over the range.
Yeah, storming would be good.
Storming, knocking you out of range of your partner and breaking the chain. Yeah, that's.
Yep.
Volcanic sounds pretty bad too, honestly.
But it only affects the range. I don't care.
Every time you kill a pillar,
that's what we want.
Every time you kill a pillar, it spawns 20 spitefuls. That would be good. And people would be kiting their spites in different directions.
Oh,
but they'd be big
spiteful, dude.
Like they don't die, they just expire based on their timer.
Can you imagine like the Nathrius phase 1 of Spiteful?
Okay. What if like you just added the wins from Stone Legion General just into random bosses?
Shut up! Man. What's wrong with you? Why are you trying to bring Stone Legion General, dude? I don't want to think about that boss anymore.
It would. There's a few
bosses. What boss would be the worst for that?
The Nathrius probably, right? Like you constantly have to worry, like you're on the side platforms and you constantly have to run up against it while dodging the Ramonia like charge thingy. I forgot its name. The massacre and a bunch of other mechanics.
Oh yeah, wins during Ramoria, fucking massacre.
Yeah, and like dodging the spurlies on the ground and that kind of stuff.
Wins during P3 Halandris.
Yeah, honestly, with Halandris and the crab meme going so strong, just add the bomb system from Halandris. Just add it to every boss.
Dude.
Just make it an M+ affix, so you have to carry 2 bombs throughout the entire dungeon.
Imagine the bomb system on a cramped fight, like you have 6 bombs on Painsmith, and if they hit the spikes, they explode.
Oh, that's a good. I like that idea.
And they're color coded.
Smith and the spikes explode them.
Oh yeah, true.
And they're color coded, so you can't pick up. You only can pick up your own bomb. Like during intermission, you drop a bomb, but but you're all stacked. So then you're trying to run over and collect your bomb, but there's like 3 other bombs in the way, and it's all in the same corridor. You have to like pick them up in the order that you drop them.
Okay, we're just giving Blizzard ideas, okay? Like,
Ooh.
you need to calm down.
Yeah, they already made like this joke affix for season 4. Yeah, the reclaimed affix, which is, I mean, Helondra's the reclaimer. So yeah, maybe we will see it in Plus at least, where you start the key. There's going to be 2 bombs there, and if you don't juggle them like on Helondra's, they just immediately wipe the group, and you have to juggle the bombs for 30 minutes for the entirety of the dungeon.
Or there's just mini bosses in random packs that just cast Reclaim.
Yeah, maybe. Like a shield we have to break on like an enemy or something like that.
Yeah, like shards in halls, except when they thrash, they also do Reclaim.
Yep.
That sounds great. I love that.
That would be pretty cool though, actually, like because it would require prior damage, where like a random mob would start casting it, and then you need like a lot of prior damage just for that target at that specific point in time.
What if they just made random
like
ads?
Prior damage being a tool that is needed. I am not a big fan of like that mass AoE cleave that's happening right now.
You could just
Like we're derailing a little bit.
You could add goalkeeper bombs. You just have to goalkeep in Mythic Plus.
How would that work if you're moving around the area so much?
It wouldn't, and it would be
would like
hilarious.
move towards one specific mob, and you would need to make sure that these like modes don't hit like that specific mob, or would you only have it on bosses?
Add a static pillar in random spots. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. And then you
Alright,
need
next
to
question?
complete them. I don't
How do you feel about sub being locked into very specific talents for almost all the fights in the raid? What talents would you like to see viable or change to give sub more flexible?
I'd like to see Gloomblade and Secret Technique. Like the fact that Gloomblade is not good with perforated veins and the Kari is just a bit weird to me. Like into
Perforated
it,
veins and deeper daggers, and it's still not good enough.
Yeah.
I'm down for some Dark Shadow buffs. I want like Dark Shadow, Night Stalker.
I
want
agree.
that shit again.
I agree. Like there was like one niche that I really like. You all like Sarah BFA. I feel like I was one of the first people that like pushed towards this, where you like go as much funnel as possible, right? So you played, you were like miserable in single target, but when there was funnel and there was like a lot of dungeons where you could actually abuse funnel, you were just popping the fuck off, right? So further up, like buffing burst and funnel would be great. Yeah, I agree. Dark Shadow's a nice order.
Yeah, it was in Nihilotha. There was like I remember, like Sub Rogue was terrible in all of BFA except for Zool. But I remember there was like a split between people, at least in the Discord. Like some people would be, enveloping shadows. Some people would be using like the full like Night Stalker Dark Shadow build. I kind of like that there was like a little bit of diversity, and it kind of sucks that that's gone.
Yeah, I think enveloping shadows is just too overpowering in that talent tier in particular, and it kind of like spreads into the other talent tiers as well. You just need to make enveloping shadows baseline. There's just no competition there, and it kind of limits the design space for all the other stuff as well. You don't have the second Shadow Dance charge, and I mean, what are you even doing? It makes the planning of the spec so much better.
And just double the damage of Secret Technique. Just double it.
Yeah, I would like Vigor to be removed. Honestly, that talent, I feel like that should be based on every rogue spec, and
yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
and then maybe add something cool as an option there.
Like bring back Anticipation or something.
Yeah.
God, I would love that.
Yeah, we can
not overcapping resources anymore, nearly as much at least. That would.
Think about Anticipation in Mythic Plus with sub right now, though.
Yeah, with Forset, right? It's so insane.
Insane.
Yeah, but it would make it so you wouldn't have to play like super hectic anymore, right? You would know going into the next global cooldown what you were gonna press already. I very much like that.
Yeah, that was a cool talent. I want that back.
But yeah, to me, I just always say the same. Yeah, every rogue spec should have an AOE finisher baseline. I don't know why we have to talent into those.
Blade
Imagine
Flurry
like
should
a
be a
mage
finisher.
who has to talent Blizzard or a Red Paladin
Flame
having
Strike.
talent Divine Storm. Like, no, it's I don't know. Crimson Tempest baseline, Sectec baseline, make Blade Rush an ability that costs combo points and deals good damage. Make it baseline, and then we're talking. Then I'd actually play Outlaw again because I love Blade Rush. It's like a really interesting ability to me.
Hopefully, we got Black Powder, so we're moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see in 3 days.
I guess we'll get a piece of what their design philosophy is going into.
Yeah. You guys got
new
anything
patch.
planned for? Like, you guys have like a viewing party planned or something like within your guild to
Yeah, we're doing a guild viewing party.
I am
Boy,
sitting in
you didn't?
Discord.
Should probably book work off.
Be sitting in Discord with Jez, and I'm just gonna have it, and then
Oh,
she's
God.
gonna see a dragon, and she's gonna be like, "Hey, can you pause it? Which dragon is that?
Oh, God.
Need it for my all the things completion."
Maybe we should try to organize like a Ravenhold viewing party or something for the release thingy. I'd be up for that. Someone else as well.
Yeah, I
That'd be
think
fun.
Guy can set that up.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't expecting you to just agree.
No, why
I was
not?
I
Sounds
was
fun.
expecting some
It does
pushback.
happen between Guy and me sometimes, yeah, that we do
Yeah, he's trying to fucking-
on occasion agree on something.
He's trying to fucking rile me up, and I'm just like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I
One more
think
question?
that. Oh, I don't know if we have any questions. Not to be a chat.
Yeah, I guess we're good then.
I think we covered it. I think we're good.
Yeah, we're
So
just rolling up on 2 hours, so
yeah,
Yep.
it's getting to that time. So
One
thanks
thing
everyone for
we-
coming.
Oh yeah, one thing actually I want to do because we didn't do it last time. At Speed and James, do you have any shoutouts in regards to the Race for World First, like the people that were like the absolute MVPs for you, like within your raid or your guild? Doesn't have to be like other raiders, but even like people who are like working in the back end and making sure that everything runs smoothly.
Yeah, a couple of those. Our GM, our raid leader, and guy that did all the spreadsheets for all the splits. Him and one more guy outside, Turtle and Biff. They were like absolute MVPs. Like the spreadsheets were basically the MVPs of this tier. And one more guy and my rogue partner in the guild. He was mostly like guy outside, and then he would play rogue if we need a second one. Morana, he's like honestly one of the smartest people I've met, and just great pleasure playing with him and learning from him. He was main tank in Exorcist back then when they were best skill in the world.
Yeah,
Those
for,
others.
for me, like it's actually crazy how much the analysts like help. Like they save so much time during heroic week and the splits, and even coming up with strategies for boss and stuff. So the whole analyst squad was great. Playing with my partner Exile, he was the other rogue. He also plays a few other classes, but he was the other rogue on Hollanders, and that was like the most fun I've ever had raiding. And let's see. Oh, I had a great time playing with Shakib. He sat next to me on my right, and he played really, really well too. Yeah.
Nice. All right. So thanks everyone for coming to episode 4. We'll get
do
it
you
up
guys have
on.
any, do you have any like
Spotify?
Twitters to chat out? Twitters, Twitches. Where can people find you?
Twitch respeed
JPC the man.
_
Yeah. Except not on
Underscore.
Twitter. On Twitter, it's the regular one.
2 underscores.
There we go.
More underscores. You can also find him twitch.tv/JP5.
Oh, I haven't heard about this one yet. Oh,
You can also find him on Twitter, JPC's Eagle.
yeah, that was not me though. That's a good account though. That's a guy from my old guild.
It's a bagger.
That's a banger account, yeah. It's like
Alright.
the Orkjeon watch.
We can talk all day. We can keep talking.
Yeah.
Stop.
No,
Nah, thanks guys for coming on. It was really fun. I hope. I mean, it was like the first like actual race for World First for both of you, right?
Yeah.
So hope we'll get to see you guys again on the next one as well.
Yeah, it's awesome to hear your guys' perspective on stuff.
glad to be here.
Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Bye bye.
See you guys later.
Yep.
Have a good night.
Have a nice evening and happy Easter.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.